I sat in the car on that empty parking lot in front of the bank. Yesterday, the account showed $300,000. Today, it was zero. And the worst part, it wasn't my money. It was my daughter's inheritance. When my dad passed away, he didn't leave me much. But he left something for his granddaughter. He made sure she had a college fund. It was his way of saying, I'll still take care of her, even when I'm gone. The day we got the paperwork, my wife looked at me straight in the eyes and said, "This is sacred. We don't touch it." Her voice was calm, but it carried weight. And I agreed right away. I nodded, promised her I would never move a single dollar out of that account. At the time, I believed it too. I wanted to protect that money as much as she did. On paper, the promise was simple. But living with it, day after day, was something else. Because every time I saw the balance, every time I remembered what it represented, another thought kept creeping in. Yes, $300,000 is a lot. But college these days can eat up that kind of money fast. Tuition, books, housing, gone in 4 years, maybe 5. Then what? She'd graduate, maybe have a small head start with a place to live, and that would be it. I couldn't stop asking myself, what if I could do more? What if I could take what my dad left and turn it into something bigger? Not just tuition, but a future, real security. A home, a safety net, something that would last longer than a diploma. That thought sat in the back of my mind like a buzzing fly. I tried to swat it away. I told myself I was being greedy, that promises meant something. But it wouldn't leave. It kept me awake at night. I'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, running the numbers in my head. My wife trusted me. She never asked to see the account, never checked. She believed my word was enough. And that trust, it was heavy. It felt like both a shield and a weight. I carried it around every single day. But I couldn't silence the part of me that wondered. If there was a way to double it, triple it, to change the whole game for her, wasn't it my duty to at least try? Wasn't that what a good father does? That was the crack in the wall. A promise on one side, a vision of a better future on the other. And in between, a pressure I couldn't shake. I didn't touch the money. Not yet. I kept my word, at least for that moment. But the idea kept growing, like a seed planted deep, waiting for the right time to break through. And that was the beginning of the end. That seed in my head started to grow the day I stumbled on a story online. Some guy was talking about how he doubled his money in a few months with what he called smart investments. At first, I rolled my eyes. It sounded like one of those too good to be true things. But then I saw another story. And another. Different people. Same message. They put money in, they got more out. I told myself I was just curious, just browsing. But the more I read, the harder it was to shake the thought. Maybe they weren't all lying. Maybe I was the one missing something. I didn't go straight for the big account. No, I tested the water. I pulled $10,000 from my own savings. Money I could afford to lose, or at least that's how I justified it. I figured, if it disappears, lesson learned. If it grows, maybe there's something here. The first month, my $10,000 turned into 12. I almost didn't believe it. I refreshed the page a dozen times, thinking there had to be a mistake. But no, it was there. 2,000 more than I started with. I didn't tell my wife. I just smiled to myself and closed the laptop like I was hiding a guilty pleasure. The second month, 12 became 14. Another little bump. Not huge, but enough to make me sit back in my chair and think. This works. I wasn't throwing dice. I was being smart. Careful. Strategic. That's what I told myself. It gave me a rush I hadn't felt in years. Not the kind of rush you get from luck, but from control, or at least what felt like control. I was choosing, calculating, making moves, and they were paying off. I started reading more, staying up late scrolling through chats where people bragged about their wins. Screenshots of balances, short posts about quick profits. I laughed at first, but slowly that laughter turned into something else. Envy. These people weren't any different from me, but they were moving faster, bolder. I didn't see it as gambling. Gambling is blind. This felt like strategy, like managing risk. That was the phrase I kept repeating in my head. I'm managing risk. It made me feel like I wasn't crossing a line, just playing smart. I checked my phone constantly, refreshing, watching the numbers tick up. Every time they did, it was like fuel on the fire. I started to imagine what would happen if I went bigger. If 10,000 could become 14, what could 100,000 do? What could 300,000 do? I told myself I was in control. That was the lie I needed to believe. But looking back, the truth is, I wasn't controlling anything. I was just being pulled in, one small step at a time. I thought I was balancing on a wire and doing fine. Every step felt steady, even if the ground below was miles away. But the cracks started to show sooner than I wanted to admit. One night, I was sitting at the desk in the living room, the glow of the laptop screen lighting up the whole space. It was close to midnight. My wife came out of the bedroom and leaned against the doorframe. She rubbed her eyes and asked, "Why are you always up so late? What are you working on?" I forced a smile and said it was just work stuff. A project. Nothing exciting. She didn't press, but I caught the look in her eyes before she turned back down the hall. Not anger, not suspicion exactly, just something unsettled. That look stayed with me long after she went to bed. I felt guilty, but not enough to stop. I told myself it would all make sense later. When I showed her the results, she'd see it was worth it. She'd thank me for thinking ahead, for taking the risk. At least, that's what I wanted to believe. Then the first strange message popped up in one of the chats I followed. Someone wrote about accounts being frozen, a delay in withdrawals. My stomach sank, but before I could even think about it, 10 other people jumped in. It's normal. They're just updating servers. Happens all the time. I clung to those voices. I needed to. They were the reassurance I couldn't get anywhere else. A few days later, another post. Someone said they hadn't been able to get their payout for over a week. Again, the chorus of replies came flooding in. Don't panic. It'll be fine. Happens every few months. I wanted to believe them so badly that I shut down the doubts in my head. Still, there were moments I couldn't ignore. The login page would stall. The numbers on my account froze for hours. I'd refresh again and again, hands sweating, heart racing. And then, eventually, the balance would show up again, and I'd breathe like I had just dodged a bullet. But deep down, the fear had started to take root. I knew it. Every time my wife asked why I looked tired, why I was distracted at dinner, I felt the weight of what I wasn't saying. I swallowed the truth and told myself one day she'd see the whole picture, not just the cracks. The warnings were there. They were flashing bright red. And instead of hitting the brakes, I convinced myself they were nothing but noise. Because if I admitted they were real, I'd have to admit I was already too far in. The warnings were there, but I pushed them aside. I kept repeating to myself, if this was really dangerous, people wouldn't still be making money. If it was a scam, it would have collapsed already. That's how I justified it. That's how I let myself take the next step. One evening, I opened the account that held my daughter's inheritance. $300,000. The same number I'd seen 100 times before. It sat there like a rock, untouched, silent. For months, I'd left it alone, but that night it felt different. I stared at it, and all I could think was, every day that money just sits there, it's shrinking. Not literally, but in value. Tuition rising, housing costs climbing, inflation chewing away at it. I felt like I could almost hear it losing power, dollar by dollar. My finger hovered over the transfer button. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. I told myself this wasn't stealing, this wasn't reckless. This was an investment. It wasn't about me. It was about her. About giving her more than just 4 years of college and a rented apartment. I said out loud, "This is for her." My voice shook, but hearing the words made it feel almost noble. Like I was a father taking action instead of sitting on the sidelines. And then I clicked. The number vanished from the screen, wiped clean in a second. For a moment, panic shot through me. $300,000, gone. But then the balance reappeared in the new account, lined up neatly in the project I'd chosen. I actually smiled. Relief washed over me like I'd just crossed a finish line. I convinced myself I hadn't broken the promise. I hadn't wasted the money, I'd just moved it. Put it to work. Made it grow faster. In my head, I wasn't a liar. I was a father who had taken the smarter path. I even leaned back in my chair, breathing deeply, imagining the day I'd tell my wife and daughter. I pictured the look on their faces when they realized the college fund had doubled, maybe tripled. They'd see me differently, not just as the guy who kept things steady, but as the man who changed their future. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. Looking back now, that was the moment everything snapped. That single click. I didn't know it yet, but it was the point where there was no turning back. The money was no longer safe, and neither was I. At first, everything looked normal. The balance sat there in the new account, $300,000, like it had always been. I refreshed the page again and again, just to be sure, and each time the numbers stayed solid. I told myself I'd made the right move. But a week later, the screen froze. I tried logging out and back in, but the page wouldn't load. My hands started to sweat as I clicked refresh over and over. Finally, it came back up, but the layout looked different. A banner at the top said System Maintenance. I told myself not to panic. Updates happen. The next day, it was the same. And the day after that, I opened the group chat, and it was chaos. People posting screenshots of error messages, withdrawals pending for days, accounts locked. Some wrote that the whole project had been shut down, that the money was gone. Others argued back. This always happens. Give it time. They'll restore everything. I wanted to believe them, so I clung to every hopeful message like a lifeline. But then I tried to withdraw. Just a small amount, a test. I clicked the button, but nothing happened. No confirmation, no error, just silence. I tried again, harder this time, like pressing the mouse harder would change anything. Still nothing. That's when my stomach dropped. I sat there for hours, refreshing, trying, failing. My desk lamp buzzed in the silence. I clenched the mouse so tight my fingers went numb. Every click felt like another nail in the coffin. By the end of the week, the chat was a firestorm. Some said the founders had disappeared. Some claimed they'd managed to pull out just in time. Others begged for answers. But there were no answers, only panic. I kept staring at the screen. The balance still showed the same number, 300,000, sitting there like it was real. But I knew. It was just a shadow now, numbers with no weight behind them. A ghost of the money that once existed. I tried every trick I could think of. Different browsers, different devices, even calling my internet provider, as if maybe the problem was on my end. But deep down I knew the truth. The money was gone. Not chipped away, not reduced, gone in a single move. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, silent, the glow of the frozen screen in my face. My body felt heavy, like I was sinking into the chair. All I could hear was the faint hum of the computer fan, filling the space where my future used to be. $300,000. My daughter's inheritance. Erased. And I was the one who erased it. I couldn't keep it to myself forever. The money was gone, and no matter how many times I stared at that frozen screen, it wasn't coming back. The weight of it pressed down on me until I finally broke. I told my wife. She didn't shout. She didn't throw anything or call me names. She just looked at me with this expression that cut deeper than any anger could, like she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. After a long silence, all she said was, "You promised." That was it. 2 words. And they were heavier than the 300,000 I had erased. After that, the house felt different. Quieter. Not the comfortable quiet of 2 people who know each other, but the kind that comes when there's nothing left to say. She went through the motions, dinners, laundry, her job, but the space between us stretched wider every day. I didn't sleep much. Most nights I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every click, every decision, like maybe if I found the exact moment I slipped, I could undo it. But morning always came, and the balance was still 0. At work, I wasn't any better. I mixed up numbers, missed deadlines, forgot meetings. My boss pulled me aside once and asked if everything was okay at home. I nodded, lied, and walked away before he could press. Every ring of the phone made me jump. Unknown numbers hit me like punches. What if it was the bank? What if someone found out? What if my daughter's future was officially marked as gone? But the calls were never about that. Spam calls, surveys, reminders. The world kept turning while I stood still, stuck in the wreckage. I avoided mirrors. I didn't want to see the man who had gambled away his daughter's inheritance. I shaved less, ate less, spoke less. Even small conversations with friends felt like walking on broken glass. How could I talk about weekend plans when I was carrying this secret disaster? The guilt followed me everywhere. Sitting at red lights, I'd grip the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white, imagining her graduation day. Imagining telling her why the account her grandfather left was empty. The thought made me sick. I started checking my phone compulsively, even when I knew there would be no updates. The app still showed the balance, still mocking me with numbers I could never touch again. Every time I saw it, the same sentence echoed in my head. You lost it. You lost her future. But the cruelest part wasn't the silence of the frozen account. It was the silence at home. My wife didn't ask me for updates, didn't press me with questions. She didn't need to. The distance between us said everything. The money was gone. And so was the trust. The silence at home became its own kind of punishment. My wife didn't ask me about the money anymore. She didn't ask me much of anything. She moved around me like I was a stranger, and in a way, that's exactly what I had become. I knew I had two paths. One was easy: bury the truth even deeper. Keep pretending. I could hold on to the lie that the money was still out there working, that one day it would come back. I could let my daughter grow up believing her college fund was safe. Maybe by the time she needed it, I'd have figured out some excuse, some way to soften the blow. The other path was harder. It meant telling her the truth when the time came. Sitting across from her and admitting, "I wanted to give you more, and instead I lost everything." It meant accepting her anger, her disappointment, maybe even her hate. I sat with those choices night after night, the two voices battling in my head. One whispering, "Just keep the lie going, it's easier." The other saying, "You've already destroyed the money, don't destroy yourself with lies too." In the end, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't keep building walls of silence and pretending they were protection. I decided that when my daughter was old enough to ask, I would tell her the truth. Not a polished version, not excuses, just the truth. That decision didn't feel noble. It didn't feel like redemption. It felt like standing naked in the middle of a storm, waiting for the next strike. But it was all I had left. I told myself that if I had ruined the inheritance, I could at least try to replace it with something real. Work, hours, sweat, whatever it took. I'd save again, dollar by dollar, until I built something close to what she lost. It wouldn't be my father's gift anymore. It wouldn't carry his name or his pride, but it would be honest. I started picking up extra work. Nothing glamorous. Side jobs, late shifts, whatever I could find. I wrote it all down in a notebook. Every gig, every amount, every cent set aside. A pathetic list compared to the 300,000 that had vanished, but at least it was real. I knew it could take years, maybe decades. Maybe I'd never get it all back. But the decision was made. I couldn't undo what I'd done. I couldn't rebuild the trust overnight. But I could stop lying. And I could keep moving, one small step at a time, until I had something worth handing to her again. Even if it took the rest of my life. I had made my choice. Work harder, save more, and face the truth when the time came. It didn't make the guilt lighter, but at least it gave me something to hold on to. A direction. A way to keep moving forward. Then, about a month later, an envelope came in the mail. It was addressed to my daughter. The return address was from a scholarship fund we'd applied to months back, before everything unraveled. My wife left it on the counter without saying a word. I picked it up, hands trembling, and opened it. The letter was short. "We are pleased to inform you that your daughter has been accepted into our program with partial scholarship support." I read the line over and over, my throat tightening with each pass. A partial scholarship. She had earned it. On her own, without me, without the inheritance, without the so-called investment that I thought would secure her future. For a moment, I felt a rush of relief. She had a chance. She could still go to college, still step into her future without the ground crumbling under her feet. But that relief turned quickly into something sharper, something that cut straight through me. Because the truth hit me harder than any loss ever could. She never needed me to gamble her future. She never needed my big idea to double the money. She was already capable. She had already found a way. I stood there in the kitchen with the letter in my hand, staring at the words, and it felt like a slap across the face. Everything I had told myself, every justification, every excuse, it all collapsed in that moment. The scholarship didn't erase the loss. It didn't bring the money back. It just showed me how pointless my decision had been. All I had managed to do was take away her certainty, her security, her trust in her father. My wife walked past me, saw the letter in my hand, and didn't say a thing. She didn't need to. The silence said it all. She knew what I knew. Our daughter was moving forward, with or without me. And for the first time, I understood that the inheritance wasn't about the money at all. It was about trust. About my father's trust in me to protect her future. About my wife's trust when she made me promise. About my daughter's trust that her dad would keep her safe. And I had broken it. The scholarship was a gift. but it wasn't mine to give. I sit at the same table where I once clicked transfer. The glow of the laptop screen is gone. The account that once showed $300,000 is empty, nothing but a reminder of what I did. Next to me is a notebook. The pages are filled with scribbles, lists of odd jobs, hours worked, and small amounts I've managed to save. 100 here, 200 there. Nothing close to what I lost, but at least it's real. I don't chase schemes anymore. I don't scroll through late-night chats looking for shortcuts. I don't look for miracles. The money is gone, and no story, no trick, no wishful thought will bring it back. Now it's just me, working, saving, slowly, relentlessly. Sometimes I catch myself staring at the blank space on my bank app where the inheritance used to be. The zero doesn't shock me anymore. It just sits there, quiet. A scar I can't cover. The scholarship letter is still on the fridge. My daughter doesn't know yet what it means, not fully. But she will. One day she'll open that envelope herself, and she'll be proud. She'll think she earned her way forward, and she did. She'll never know how close she came to standing on nothing. My wife still doesn't talk much about it. We live in the same house, we share meals, but the words we don't say fill every room. I can't change that. I don't expect forgiveness. What I can do is work. Keep adding lines to that notebook. Keep showing up. Keep paying, piece by piece, for the decision I made with a single click. I thought I could change her future. I thought I could outsmart time, double what was already enough. All I left her with was an empty account, and me. I close the notebook, push the laptop aside, and sit in the quiet. Her inheritance is gone, but she still has me, and that will have to be enough. Thanks for listening to the story till the end. Write in the comments what you think about all this. Subscribe, more untold stories are on the way.